Have you heard of the so-called Hall of Death? This is by far the most depressing exhibition I've ever attended. I'm at the Munich Electronica, the world's largest electronic semiconductor trade show. Here in Hall C6, there are over 300 companies, all of them Chinese semiconductor-related businesses. The pavilion is decked out in vibrant red, symbolizing China. But instead of bustling crowds, there's just a sparse gathering of industry peers and service staff. No clients, no foreign visitors, truly living up to the nickname the Hall of Death. What's it like to be in the group of death at this C6 pavilion on the first day of the expo? I would describe it in one phrase: barely a soul in sight. Take a look. This is the China Pavilion, awash in bright red, but it's not bringing the lively, bustling energy you'd expect. Where's the action? Over in halls A1 and B1, where the atmosphere is completely different, full of energy and buzzing with activity. The 31st Munich Electronica, held from November 12th to 15th, 2024, is a major global platform for the electronics industry. It covers everything from electronic components and system solutions to smart manufacturing, showcasing cutting-edge technologies and applications. It attracts leading companies, experts, and innovators from 59 countries, with a record-breaking 3,630 exhibitors. This event is the largest professional electronics exhibition in the world and an invaluable opportunity for companies to connect with global buyers. Given the scale of this international event, the Chinese government was keen to participate. Reports suggest that local governments, despite financial constraints, subsidized businesses to encourage participation and secure international orders. With over 1,000 Chinese exhibitors, including semiconductor manufacturers, distributors, and major printed circuit board companies, the Chinese delegation represented almost half of the total exhibitors, an indication of how seriously this event was taken by both the Chinese government and the private sector. However, the outcome tells a different story. Despite red decorations giving the Chinese pavilions a grand appearance, the expected crowd and client interest were nowhere to be seen. The anticipated orders, even less so. What's the reality of Chinese companies going global? Just look at this massive section of the exhibition. Hundreds of Chinese companies, yet very few people at their booths. Most entrances are empty, and even foreign visitors rarely stop by to engage or negotiate. It shows that while our products have great potential, our international presence and influence are still lacking. You see, each pavilion has dedicated China sections with hundreds, even thousands of exhibitors, but there are often more staff than visitors. Some commentators online argue that this isn't a problem with Chinese products, but a reflection of a Western consensus to suppress China, which is concerning. Others say Chinese markets are overly competitive, so businesses are trying their luck overseas, but this strategy invites resentment from foreign companies. There are also accusations that videos of the empty exhibition are misleading, filmed intentionally at quiet moments to create a negative impression. Critics even accuse the content creators of being unpatriotic, claiming they're tarnishing the reputation of Chinese companies. To get a clearer picture, let's take a look at videos from other Chinese exhibitors and hear their experiences. Today marks the second day of our participation in the 2024 Munich Electronica. As you can see, attendance here is sparse, but this also means that the attendees are highly professional. Unlike domestic exhibitions which attract a lot of casual onlookers, this event focuses on quality over quantity. I believe Chinese manufacturing has made incredible progress on the global stage. Look around. This entire section is adorned in Chinese red. Why? Because as I walked through the 18 exhibition halls, I realized that Chinese exhibitors now make up over 50% of the event. This demonstrates how far we've come, from being a production base for others 30 years ago to now having Chinese manufacturing recognized globally. It's truly remarkable. This blogger comes from Dongguan, one of China's manufacturing hubs. His company produces connectors, custom wiring, and adapters for new energy vehicles. While his booth had few visitors, he still expressed confidence in Chinese manufacturing. He attributed the low attendance to weak promotion by the organizers, the global economic downturn, and even the weather. However, the real reasons might be beyond his understanding, or perhaps he's hesitant to acknowledge them. After all, government subsidies often cover exhibition costs. They may not dare to speak openly, but online commenters were far more candid. One remarked, "It's this overwhelming display of red that scares people away. Others focus on technology, while you focus on politics." Others added, "How can you slap the West in the face every day and still expect them to do business with you? You're making cheap goods by overworking employees. Even your overseas offices rely on unpaid overtime. Of course they're fed up. Why is it that so many customers worldwide don't like us anymore?" These comments reflect a broader issue. Over the years, China's aggressive wolf warrior diplomacy has alienated many Western countries. The West increasingly criticizes China for disrupting the global economic order and employing unfriendly market practices. Since the onset of the Russia-Ukraine war, China's tacit support for Russia has further heightened Western distrust. Even European nations that once thought friendly relations with China are pulling away. In response, the US and EU have introduced strategies to reduce dependence on China and Russia while countering their growing influence. These include measures like decoupling, de-risking supply chains, and restricting high-tech exports. The semiconductor industry in particular is a key focus of these policies. Against this backdrop, the lukewarm reception for Chinese companies at the Munich Electronica isn't surprising. Of the 1,000 plus Chinese companies at the show, some attended independently. These firms designed their booths individually and were scattered throughout the exhibition. Others participated under government sponsorship, with a centralized China pavilion designed by hired agencies in a unified red theme. However, these government-organized booths were often in less favorable locations with minimal foot traffic. Some speculate that mismanagement or cost-cutting by agents may have played a role. Insiders also revealed historical factors. Germany's trade shows, including those in Munich, Frankfurt, and Nuremberg, have long grouped Chinese exhibitors into centralized pavilions. This arrangement dates back to when China's Trade Promotion Council negotiated with German organizers to simplify management. While this structure worked well in the past, the current economic climate in Europe, combined with growing restrictions on Chinese products, has left these areas nearly deserted. Hall C6 was mainly filled with semiconductor and chip-related companies. While there were many Chinese exhibitors and visitors, the industry faces significant challenges. Under Western technology restrictions, especially in mid to high-end analog and memory chips, China's semiconductor sector is focusing on self-sufficiency and domestic substitution. Breaking into global markets remains a distant goal. The Chinese government's strong support for overseas exhibitions stems from the domestic economic situation. With overcapacity and sluggish consumption at home, more companies are looking abroad for growth. Businesses, whether they already operate internationally or not, are shifting their focus to overseas markets as a key source of growth and profit. This aligns with government-backed strategies that promote international participation, investment, and expansion. Many Chinese companies participated in the Madrid International Electronics and Lighting Exhibition held in Madrid earlier in November. However, based on videos shared online, they got as lukewarm a response as at the Munich Electronica. I'm here in Madrid, Spain, on the first day of the exhibition. The crowds are overwhelming. Well, you can judge for yourself. So, what's the situation? The China pavilion is mostly filled with Chinese participants. Some local Spanish attendees mentioned that while the event is named the Electric and Lighting Exhibition, the focus seems more on construction and electricity, not lighting. This lighting angle seems to have been a packaging gimmick from Chinese intermediaries. 2 years ago, there were only 40 Chinese companies here. Now look at this, over 300 Chinese exhibitors. These 300 companies are practically propping up the entire exhibition. Big-name brands that used to dominate the event are no longer attending, leaving it mostly to Chinese businesses. Foreign exhibitors seem less enthusiastic, and it's largely up to Chinese companies to keep the event alive. Let's visit Hall 6 to see the European section and compare. The European pavilion does have better attendance, likely because it caters to distributors and clients of well-known brands. However, even here, the number of major brands has decreased compared to 2 years ago. Surprisingly, many of the European companies at this event are actually subsidiaries or joint ventures of Chinese firms operating in Europe. This reflects a broader trend of Chinese companies establishing overseas operations. Many are setting up factories in Europe to address domestic challenges, such as sluggish consumption and overproduction. Overseas ventures provide opportunities for growth, technological innovation, cost reduction, and addressing excess capacity. Additionally, these moves help Chinese firms navigate trade tensions, particularly with the US and the West, while meeting demands for diversified supply chains. Initially, Chinese companies favored Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America as key destinations for setting up factories. Here is a closer look at the trends. In the beginning, Chinese companies set up factories in Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Southeast Asia, with its rapidly growing economy and youthful population, has been the top region for Chinese outbound investment since 2018. In recent years, while accommodating the relocation of traditional Chinese manufacturing, Southeast Asia has also become a key market for Chinese cross-border e-commerce and mobile gaming companies looking to expand aggressively into the entertainment and consumer sectors. Africa, with its relatively undeveloped but rapidly growing market, has become a key destination for Chinese investment. Currently, Africa's consumer capacity and market conditions resemble those of China 20 years ago, although its industrial foundation is even less developed. However, the continent's accelerating economic growth, industrialization, and urbanization continue to attract more Chinese companies. Investments are primarily focused on infrastructure, mining, energy, and telecommunications. Latin America and the Middle East, meanwhile, have emerged as new gold mines for Chinese cloud server providers. These regions, with their unique geographic advantages, abundant resources, and growing market demand, have become prime targets for expansion by major Chinese cloud companies. For instance, on March 6, Tencent Cloud partnered with Saudi telecom provider Mobily to launch the Saudi Arabia Initiative. On May 21st, Huawei Cloud opened its data center in Cairo, Egypt, becoming the first global company to establish public cloud services in the country. At the same time, Huawei Cloud unveiled a standard Arabic large language model with billions of parameters. On May 23rd, Alibaba Cloud announced plans to invest in new data centers in 5 countries: South Korea, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Mexico. Alibaba Cloud's market share in the Asia-Pacific region continues to grow. Tencent Cloud's user base in Latin America has increased by more than 30%, and Huawei Cloud has seen significant growth in application cases across Africa. These moves highlight that for Chinese cloud service providers, overseas expansion not only alleviates domestic market competition, but also opens up vast opportunities for growth and enhances their international brand influence. Europe has emerged as a key new market for China's high-end industries, led by the new energy sector. Chinese power battery companies are grappling with severe overcapacity. According to the China Automotive Power Battery Industry Innovation Alliance, the total installed capacity of power batteries in China during the first half of this year reached 152.1 gigawatt hours, a 38.1% increase compared to last year. However, during the same period, production totaled approximately 293.6 gigawatt hours, growing 36.8%. In simpler terms, production was nearly double the market demand. To address this overcapacity, going global has become a strategic solution. Increasingly, Chinese battery companies are expanding abroad to secure market share and improve production efficiency. Europe is one of the hottest markets for Chinese battery firms. The EU's plan to ban the sale of fuel-powered vehicles by 2035 has created a promising outlook for the region's new energy development. At the same time, Europe's relatively weak battery supply chain presents opportunities for Chinese firms. Leading companies like CATL, Calbee, Goshen High-Tech, EV Energy, SVolt, and Sunwoda have all announced plans to establish factories in Europe and North America. Beyond building factories, some Chinese companies are opting for joint ventures and acquisitions to mitigate policy risks. For example, Goshen High-Tech acquired a 25% stake in Slovakia's Inobat. And EV Energy partnered with Electrified Power to set up a joint venture in the US, targeting the North American commercial vehicle battery market. However, the investment boom by Chinese companies has aroused the vigilance of the European Union, which has recently promulgated a series of foreign investment policies. For example, in 2022, the European Parliament and the Council promulgated the Regulation on Foreign Subsidies Distorting the Internal Market, or FSR. It took effect in July 2023. According to the FSR, when Chinese companies invest in the EU, in addition to obtaining the approval from the EU or the member state for the Foreign Investment Security Review and Antitrust Review of the proposed investment or M&A transaction before the transaction is completed, Chinese companies will have to face this third pre-transaction approval, countervailing review. In addition to FSR, the EU's Foreign Investment Review is also gradually strengthening. On January 24, 2024, the European Commission issued a revised draft for the current EU Foreign Investment Review regulations. The draft regulations expand the scope of review, covering not only foreign direct investment, but also investments made by Chinese companies through subsidiaries in the EU. The regulations also add investment review requirements for to-be-established companies, which means that foreign greenfield investments in the EU are also included in the scope of review. Among them, the focus on specific fields has a major impact on solar and wind energy technology, electric vehicles, and semiconductor investments by non-EU investors, greatly increasing the risk of Chinese companies' investments being scrutinized and causing substantial obstacles to Chinese companies' overseas investments. Meanwhile, Mexico is quickly becoming a favorite destination for Chinese companies, particularly as a gateway to the US market. The US-China trade war has motivated many Chinese firms to invest in Mexico to mitigate geopolitical risks, bypass trade barriers, and avoid high tariffs. In 2022, Chinese direct investment in Mexico increased by 48% year-on-year. Over 1,000 Chinese companies, including Huawei, Lenovo, TCL, Hisense, and Manhua, have established operations in Mexico. These businesses focus on industries such as telecommunications, infrastructure, energy, logistics, automotive, and textiles, rapidly expanding their presence in a short time. However, the favorable conditions for Chinese companies in Mexico might not last long. The fact that US President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to impose tariffs of 25 to 100% on all Mexican goods could dramatically shift the landscape. His specific pledge to impose a 100% tariff on automobiles could deal a severe blow to Chinese new energy vehicle manufacturers operating in Mexico, posing a significant challenge to their international expansion strategies.